This program is a DUADS collaboration with Purple Radio Drama. Content warnings may be found in the description below. DUADS presents Shock, 1944, written by Luca Veronese and directed by Nick Lemieux.
Welcome to the Royal Institute for Esoteric Art. If you should experience any complications with this audio guide, please do not hesitate to contact a member of staff.
Hello, and thank you for choosing this audio tour of Norway's Forgotten Artists. We at the museum are honoured to invite the subjects and their next of kin to discuss the artwork on display and shed some light on their creative process. Please do not be alarmed by your surroundings. There is no fault with the museum's electrics. We are merely honouring the posthumous wishes of our first subject. Exhibit 1, Shock, 1944, by Johann Sebastian Augustine.
Johann Sebastian Augustine. My brother. Who else would come up with something like this for the only exhibit? Oh, you needn't be worried. Just stand with your back to the door and place your hand on the wall to your right. Can you feel it? Can you feel the rough plaster beneath your fingertips? Try to imagine this color. Can you even imagine it? You should find a set of guidelines under your fingers, those little triangular notches cut at hip height. Take a moment to orientate yourself in the corridor. Ready? Good. Now begin walking forward. My brother went blind towards the end of his life. Oh, his early career was punctuated by bouts of depression and psychiatric breakdowns, but people only remember him for his blindness. He used to take long walks along the cliff tops during his blacker days. I always told him not to, but he never listened. He began this painting, his only finished work, towards the end. Did you know that? Just as he was beginning to sense the shadows creep in around his vision, the piece was seized, along with all his other possessions for that matter, by the occupying forces in 1944. They say they found it all alone in that little cabin of his, in that dark room with its dust-filled air, a stretched canvas under a grimy sheet. You can almost see it, can you? Try holding it. Try feeling it between your fingers. Isn't it much rougher than the plaster?
By now, you should be halfway down the corridor. At this point, your eyes will have adjusted to the low light level. Your pupils are twice their original size. If you reach the door at the other end of the corridor, do not enter just yet. The recording will inform you when to move on to the exhibit.
We were all aware of Johanna's failing eyesight. Of course we were aware. How could we not be? He never told us directly, though. No. But we could always tell. Through his handwriting. He still wrote us frequent letters towards the end, to me in particular. We were always closest. I'm not going to read them aloud on here, not for anything in the world. But just imagine, for a moment, being me. Imagine being his sister. Imagine receiving each consecutive letter with handwriting growing worse and worse and worse, and just knowing that something's wrong, horribly wrong, until finally you open one final letter just screaming to be read, but you can't because all that's left is an illegible We suspect he may have suffered from glaucoma, although he never went to any doctor. The progression of the disease is quite evident in his changing art style. His soft, elegant lines shifting into bold, blocky strokes, and his colors, so he always has such a wonderful eye for colors. There was never a drop in the quality of his work, though. He must have been aware of each stage of the deterioration process and adapted to match. Can you imagine that? Knowing each successive darkening moment brings you closer to the day that you'll wake up and never again perceive your art your craft, your life. Can you imagine being him?
You should now have reached the end of the corridor. If you have not yet reached the door, please pause this recording and resume once you found the doorway. Follow the guidelines along the wall. You should locate a door handle at chest height. Do not open the door just yet. Wait for the following section to conclude.
My brother's house still stands at the edge of Oslo. I was there just the other week. It's still empty. They're on the black cliffs amidst black forests overlooking a deep black sea. He tried to track down his paintings once the government was restored, but found they'd been sold off to museums around the country and given new names. This one, they titled Shock. We'll never know what Johannes called it. At 1:39 p.m. on an unremarkable October day, 2 fishermen found his body floating in the Oslo Fjorden. He must have fallen from the rock face by his cabin. He must have. Can you imagine it? The slip, the fall, the plunge, down into a cold ocean. The sound of your breath pulled away as your vision fades in that dark embrace. But then, I suppose he was already used to it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You can cut this part. Just give me a moment. I'm sorry.
Before you enter the exhibit room, be aware, Mr. Augustine left specific instructions as to how this piece should be displayed. It must be kept in a brightly lit room at the end of an unlit corridor, one long enough for the viewer's eyes to adjust to the darkness. It must be the first thing they see when they enter the room. Look at the painting now.
No! No, I'm not going to describe that disgusting thing. Take it away. I'm never looking on that, not for anything in the world.
You have been listening to Shock 1944, written by Luca Veronese, starring
Pingjo Cho as Miss Augustine,
Oliver Buck as male curator,
Laura Eichelmann as female creator.
directed and edited by Nick Lemieux.